In the 6 stages of advertising, what is the third stage, or what to say? And so what we're going to look at with what to say is that whatever it is that you want to communicate across to the customer is doing a number of different things. Whether it's creating interest, or creating a way for them to evaluate what your product is, or even to hopefully try it, or that behavioral intention to actually purchase your product. And so there are a number of different tactics you can use, and we're going to look at Aristotle's persuasion tactics, which are ethos, pathos, and logos. I'm sure you've heard of them before, or if you haven't, or maybe kind of vaguely in the back of your mind, you've heard them, but maybe you're not overly familiar with them. What there are ways to persuade people to act in a certain way, which at the end of the day, that's what marketing is. Marketing is a way to persuade consumers to purchase what you offer. It's a way to get them to buy, to tell other people. The whole point of marketing is to influence consumer behavior in a profitable way for your organization. Just the way things are. So what Logos does is it says in that what we're saying, or the communication that I'm having towards you, I'm going to use logic as a way to convince you. Things like, well, everybody really understands that this is the way things are. Or, most people would notice or recognize this. Or it doesn't even have to be most people, this bandwagon effect. It could be something along the lines, the research shows, or data is conclusive of, or it just makes sense that, whatever the logical explanation would be. If I'm not thinking irrationally or emotionally or anything else, I'm just giving you the facts. And based on the facts, you logically have to reach this conclusion. So that's one way to communicate with people, using logic. It just depends on who your target market is. Logic is probably, from a consumer perspective, not your best tactic, because most people are not logical. And they don't purchase based on logic, they purchase based on other factors. Now, that's not always the case. I'm putting very big blanket stereotypes on consumers in general, but more likely you're going to get a better approach using pathos, or the emotional appeal. And this is when I'm trying to grab your heartstrings, when I'm trying to make you feel a certain way. If you're watching a commercial about a home security system, and they talk about the safety of your family, and you never want anything to happen to them, and you would love them, and you care about them. I'm appealing to your emotion rather than to your logical explanation that, well, homes with safety and security systems are 50% less likely to be broken into. That's logic. If I say, but don't you care about your family? That's the emotion, or the pathos. Next is ethos, and this has to do with the credibility of the source. This is saying whoever is in charge of saying this is more expert than you, and their opinion matters or has more weight. So if you were to say 5 out of 6 doctors agree that this is the best option, that would be going to the ethos, or the ethics, credibility of persuader. And we'll talk more about that with a different theory. And then on here I have cognitive, affective, and conative. And why I have this on here is this actually matches straight up with your attitudes. If you remember, we had the ABCs of attitude: affective, behavior, and I can't remember the C right now. Probably cognitive. Cognitive, affective, and conative are the same thing. Conative now means behavior. It's just another term for that. And so we also want to take into factor, or what people's attitudes towards our product are. And maybe if we're trying to change attitude, if we're trying to reinforce attitude, whatever it is we're trying to do, we also have to take those into effect. So persuasion tactics, this is how we're talking out, and whether we're appealing to certain levels of functions of attitude, or attitude in general, then we want to look at the cognitive, affective, and conative stages. All right, and then also this slide, I found this really interesting, advertising appeals. And this is just some suggestions or ideas. If you're really trying to appeal to someone's profit, then maybe you would talk about saving money, or not losing money, or even growing or gaining money. If you really want to go to someone's vanity or egotism, then maybe you talk about how expensive it is, how they're going to be seen as prestigious, that all the best people have this. And these are different just kinds of appeals that have to do with the communication of the what are you saying, and how what you're saying is going to appeal to whatever your objective is.